shall we go for? Should we take it from the top? I think they got your intro.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, folks. I do apologise for the couple of minutes of me mouthing and gesticulating in silence at the camera. We didn't have any tech problems. I was just doing that to mess with you because that's just the kind of guy I am. But wasn't on last week. I was actually on holiday, which was very nice. Kind of first big block of holiday I've had really since the lockdown started. So plenty of nothing. But we've got a pretty mixed bag today, haven't we, Max?
Yeah, with lockdown and not much going on in the real world, there's not that much to talk about, unfortunately. But still here.
Yeah, we've got a few bits of stuff that's coming out in the near future. We've also got some bits on some stuff that's just come out, and we're also going to look at a concept that's pretty universal to all of our, all wargaming and all of our game systems. So yeah, nice kind of mixed bag for you this evening. And obviously, hello to everyone in the chat. It feels like forever since we've spoken, even though it's only been like 2 weeks.
So yeah, did you get any hobby done on your holiday, or was it just nice, relaxing time?
I actually did get a very small bit of hobby done.
Oh, nice.
It's the start of my next bolt action army, actually, which
nice.
I've kind of been alluding to for a little while. Yeah, so I was painting a nice, normal, totally bog standard British forward artillery observer. Nice, and everyone loves him, free as the birds. Only there was something strange on his helmet, a large bunch of feathers. And this is entirely the boss Joe Falcetto's fault, because he showed me a very cool image of an Italian Bersagliere in British battle dress. Obviously, after Italy joined the Allies and split, you had the Italian co-belligerent forces fighting with the Allies, and there was one regiment of Bersaglieri involved there. So I thought, let's do something British, but let's do it with a different twist.
Nice.
And found a source for the feathers, which is really useful. It means I don't have to try and sculpt them with my limited abilities. So yeah, just kind of cracking on with him as a test model, and it seems to be going pretty good. Just kind of got highlights and washes to go on a few bits of him, and then once we've done that, crack on with the rest of it. I've got the list written up using a few bits and bobs with the new book. So yeah, quite excited to be working on that actually.
Oh, nice.
Hopefully we'll get some tournaments to use it out this year.
I was actually talking to one of the authors today. Just a little bit of follow up on some of that. Nothing I can divulge, but some stuff happening.
It's always good to like we did with the interview, really get into the heads of some of the people behind our books, and we kind of know a couple of them through the tournament scene, which is very cool. And yeah, it's good all round, and it's always nice when a new book comes out and you just see something in it that you can use. I mean, there's I know a lot of people very excited about the Canadian lists, which ties in kind of to one of the things we'll be talking about today.
Yeah, I'm gonna possibly go grab my book first, because that might actually be very useful.
Yes, that will be quite handy to have. I don't know if you do, because I can see a copy on your desk next to me.
I think that's the one I pulled off the shelf.
I'm just going to scoot out of frame.
Wow. I'm not going to spend the whole stream looking for it. I can't find it.
Nah, I've got my copy here, so I can frantically leaf through and see what the score is. But yes. There's some really cool stuff in there for the Canadian, obviously for your Canadians. There's also some very cool stuff for your commandos. And one of the things we wanted to touch on this evening and really explore is the concept of raiding forces. Yeah. These small elite units going sometimes behind enemy lines, sometimes they're the first strike into enemy territory, and sometimes they're, on the main battle line, but off doing their own special thing. And that's one of the things that's really applicable to all of our games, I think.
Yes, because as long as there's been warfare, there's been raiding, I think. It is something that everyone can get some value out of, and I think it's probably, I'd say, one of the first things that there was what we'd consider warfare about.
Oh, absolutely. You go back to the Stone Age. I think it's the first ever battle that's been recorded in ancient history. It's like 10,000 plus years ago in Scotland.
Oh yeah.
And they may not even have, it may even have been Neanderthal. It may not have been Homo sapiens. But that's really, really cool because that is a skirmish. If we had to recreate that in tabletop standards, we'd probably have about 20 models aside.
Yeah. Some nice models from the Savage Core range from our friends over at Lucid Eye would be very good for that.
Oh, so now we need a caveman system. Damn it!
I'm pretty sure they do one.
Yeah, I know there's a couple that do them.
Yeah, that's the only one I'm.
Cavemen. Cavemen are cool. All the scientists grinding their teeth. They're not called cavemen.
I didn't say it.
But yeah, so it's one of those things that I think lends itself very well to tabletop gaming. Yeah. Because sometimes with like Napoleonics or with Pike and Shot, with Black Powder, with Hail Caesar, you do want to play the massed battles. But I think there is also a joy in modeling and painting the really elite units.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that tend to go out and kick some doors in and get stuff done.
Yeah.
So there's really good modeling opportunities there. But also scenario-wise as well. It's don't get me wrong, lining your army up across from your opponent and just kind of battering each other into submission. That's fun. But a lot of the joy of wargaming comes into these weird mismatched scenarios, I find.
Because I think one of my favourite scenarios out of the default standard rulebook is scenario 6, which is, I think it's called Demolition. We've each got the one token in the opposite side, and it's literally just one objective each. And because it's so perfectly symmetrical, you really have to think about how is best to achieve your objective. Really, there is no straightforward way to do it. If you go whole hog to attack theirs, suddenly it's an attacker defender scenario with none of the attacker bonuses. If you sit entirely behind, there's a good chance you're going to end up getting outflanked, pronged. So you end up having this really nice battle where you've got to think, where am I fighting my battles, where am I fighting defensively, and how am I fighting defensively, which is a tough thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It really makes you work for it. There's some missions where you can write a list that wins it for you almost, in some circumstances. But with a mission like that, it's all on the players, it's all on the tactics. And that's very much what wargaming should be about, I think.
Yeah, the tactics, the rolling of the dice, the models.
Yeah, all the stuff that isn't sitting down and doing maths the night before.
Oh god. Yeah.
But
I'm anti-maths.
Yeah, as someone that proudly cannot count, I am anti-maths.
Oh, I can count. I refuse.
Yeah, you're actually much better at maths than I am. You're the of the two of us. You're the go-to short maths guy.
Am I?
I am. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was when we lived together. I used to ask you to do basic sums.
Ah, okay.
But
worked together, I've noticed I can't write. I've been corrected too many times. I've stopped questioning it. You could tell me dog was spelt with a K, and I'd be like, "All right, boss, it's going in."
I mean, between us, we are the perfect intellectual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're an absolute renaissance, man. If you stack the two of us on top of each other, we're almost 6 feet tall as well. But no, going back onto topic, that's great divergence.
Ill enough to be philosophers too.
No, I've always seen myself as like a modern day Diogenes, and don't Wikipedia him immediately because you'll get a bad opinion of me.
Was he Chicken Man, or the one who spent time in the barrel?
Yes.
So is he the same one?
No, Chicken Man is a featherless biped. I think that's either Aristotle or Plato.
Was that Aristotle?
Aristotle, yeah. I went for Chipotle with Aristotle and Chipotle with Aristotle.
Was that Bill and Ted's?
Bill and Ted's. No, there was someone else, I'm sure, in Bill and Ted. Chat, who was it in Bill and Ted that they kept mispronouncing? It was a Greek guy. He might be Aristotle, but I can't remember. Anyway, in terms of the concept of a raiding force, I actually think it lends itself to bolt action better than kind of almost any of our other games. And the reason for that is if you look at what the average bolt action kind of force has on the table, you've got, one tank. You've got one normally relatively junior officer. You've got a whole bunch of different specialists.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not normally the kind of formation you'd see, in a battle. In a battle, it's like...
As some people like to point out, it is always the most elite of the elite, kind of improbably skilled on the average bolt action field, unless you are taking a specifically inexperienced force with a lot of riflemen kind of thing. And Captain Vaus got it there. Socrates. That's the
yes.
thinking. I can't remember who it was. It's been a while since I've seen those. I've still not seen the new one either. But so it kind of gives an excuse for why you've got a single tank detached on like half a platoon, and that half a platoon's mostly regular guys, but they've been detached one unit of commandos. Like, sometimes it can look a little bit funky there. I always kind of just hand wave it and go, look, I'm playing the toy soldiers that I painted, all right? But it makes sense when you kind of consider it it's an ad hoc force with a specific objective. And I think one thing we can do is, one of the other things we wanted to mention tonight, and we'll kind of all tie it back, is thinking about
nice.
units that you don't see very often on the tabletop. And again, I think that's an opportunity to... I just noticed I've got the wrong title up again. Whoops. We'll get that fixed in post.
It'll buff out.
Yeah, well, when it goes up on YouTube, nobody watches these live. But yeah, no, units you see far less of when it's a case of your raiding force. It's not just that they are the best of the best, they are or the most convenient of the specific job at the time. It's often that they have got objectives to hit specific weak points in the line. So suddenly it makes sense to see these weird asymmetrical battles where you've got an inexperienced force or a force of something bizarre like Kriegsmarine defenders kind of thing versus the commando, or something bizarre like that. You'd never normally see it, but suddenly in the context of they are hitting specifically where the line is weak, but it's, moderately well defended, just lightly manned, then suddenly you can end up with these really fun scenarios where you've got 1,500 points of the best commandos fighting like half that of Luftwaffe Field Division or Kriegsmarine or something bizarre like that. But they've got bunkers, minefields, emplacements, barbed wire coming out the wazoo, and suddenly you've got quite an interesting game where the commandos kind of still have to, fight their teeth off just to get up the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what I mean by stuff like you've got to play it. You've actually got to play the game, if that makes sense, to get a result.
Yeah.
And there's one raid in particular, and I'm sure someone in chat can tell me the name of the operation. It was a fairly early commando operation.
Norway?
No, it was France. And it was either commando or airborne, possibly a mix of both. And it was to take a radar station. It was a German radar radio station. And they had to take it and basically get an operative inside.
I'm assuming this is pre-Dieppe raid.
I think this is post-Dieppe.
Okay.
It's like the rehabilitation post-Dieppe. Because I was going to come on to Dieppe in a second.
Oh, okay. No.
And Operation Biting, the Bruno raid. There we go.
Okay.
What
was the objective? I've not heard of that one.
Basically, it was kind of combined operations on a German coastal radar installation in northern France. And it's quite early. It's 27th, 28th of February, 42. And that was airborne. They parachuted in. It was Johnny Frost, who was at Arnhem.
Oh, okay.
They parachuted in to the area, captured the radar station, dismantled the radar array and removed the important bits that they wanted to get. Then they withdrew to an evacuation beach and were extracted by motor torpedo boat. And that was about 120 paras versus about 130 German troopers.
Very surprised German troopers.
Oh, God, yeah. But the one that always stands out to me is the RAF technician who was the radar specialist, and I forget his name. He had a couple of bodyguards with him, like paras assigned to bodyguard him. And he was told under no uncertain terms, if this goes belly up, you will be shot by our side to stop you falling into enemy hands if it looks like we can't evacuate.
Wow.
but the casualties in that were very low.
Yeah.
There was maybe a dozen casualties overall. But that's the kind of thing where you would see, a force of airborne, and they've got more machine guns maybe than usual, or they're running super light, no heavy kit.
Yeah.
And they're just going in. They've got one objective, and it's not all about destroy as many of the enemy as possible. It's about we neutralize the enemy however we can to achieve this one key objective that's absolutely crucial to, part of the war effort.
Yeah, like from a gameplay perspective, you basically say casualties irrelevant, but because the casualties are relevant, you can set them a nails hard objective actually on the tabletop, which often leads to the most interesting scenarios because sometimes it ain't easy.
Yeah, no, it's one of those that I would love to play actually, because that's almost quite even. I would say that's regular and maybe a couple of inexperienced squads of here, just bog standard mid-war here, versus obviously this absolutely nails but quite early paratrooper force.
Yeah.
And like you say, you can balance that with the defenses. You can balance that with the paras perhaps on a timer until reinforcements get there. And
because there's a host of rules in I think Canadian sectors or British and Canadian sectors has it reprinted, but it's printed in a couple of our books where we've got points values for things like bunkers, barbed wire, trench lines and stuff. So you can kind of custom your own scenarios if you need it. Obviously, we've got Gaz there offering to write it, and I'm sure the web team would never say no to a well-penned article and a exclusive scenario.
Yeah, so Gaz, there's your weekend. Crack on. We'll have it on Monday morning, yeah?
One free metal model of your choice if you write it.
One free metal model, and we will say thank you very loudly.
You will get a public shout out on the Twitch.
And that, as we know, is worth far more than any commission fee for professional rules writing.
God, yeah.
I do all of this work. We don't get paid. We do all of this for a kind word from the boss at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. A lot of exposure, though. So.
Oh yeah. Paid and exposure. I mean, in fairness, with the weather, I think I might have had exposure recently. Although my housemate managed to lock himself out for about 3 hours the other night in the snow and the rain, which amused me.
Yeah, that's pretty horrific. No, I was doing all right today. I was in the office today, so I had a nice march to work because I got 2 buses and then a 15-minute walk. The walk was exceptionally picturesque in some places as well because there's a little bit of nature I walked past, and I thoroughly enjoyed that bit.
And was it then also exceptionally like skating?
Only on the first leg because I live on a hill and this street has 4 car crashes today. That's in a cul-de-sac.
My temptation was honestly to put my skates on and just see if I could get any. Because they've not gritted the car park behind our house.
Oh yeah.
I was just going to see if I could get my stick out, get some skates on, and just do some puck handling.
Say goodbye to your edges forever the first time you hit a little bit of tarmac.
Yeah, I was good. I actually have
get
a
Connor out of
nightmare.
that shot. I saw an elbow.
It's all right. We've got a Connor on tea duty with the Warlord Games mug. It's all right. Connor just panicked because I said tea duty and I asked for coffee.
I've got my Tank Museum mug today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've actually got some content I'd like to show. We've not done Community Corner for a little while. I've actually got something from Mike, but I'm not going to show that yet because I've not seen him pop up in chat, so I'm going to wait if you're there. Mike, if you're in chat, give us a wave. The other week we were talking about Gargoyles Infantry. I don't think I've shown them on stream, have I?
I don't think so.
Because I didn't show anyone's last week when it was just me, I don't believe. And if not, they're cool enough to show again. And before that, I know we didn't do one. So this is his conversions of the new American Civil War stuff. So obviously, the other week we were talking about if you can split them up. Some people were asking about the Zouaves in the video. But definitely coming. We don't have a release date for those, but they're definitely coming. They're going to be cast up in Warlord resin. Very exciting. Don't know what the pack size is, what the price is, but watch this space. They're looking really cool. I've seen the renders for those. So yes, he, not waiting for the skirmishes, has already made some. So we got some close-ups here as well. So you can see up front there, he has broke off the individual models to make a skirmish line, which is really cool. You can kind of see in the middle ground, he's got the commander with, I believe it's either an attendant or a standard bearer going on. Like, there's a bunch of interesting stuff going on here.
I can't see it on my screen in the Twitch, but I've just realised I'm an idiot. That's because we're on delay. Never mind. So I will see that in just a second, I'm certain. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, I really like that. That's a really clever way of doing it as well, actually. You know, instead of kind of going, oh, I need to buy another regiment of skirmishers. If you've got a spare frame lying around that's a spare, battalion frame, you can just kind of go, all right, we'll make a single company into a full regiment's worth of skirmishers. And I think it holds up really nicely.
Yeah, and you can see where some of the cuts have been made. I believe he said the hardest part was the patience and getting the hot water not to just melt them.
Oh, yeah. I'll bet, yeah. I say it's one that I actually might try and do something similar, because I know Nick, my housemate from our resin casting team, he's done something very similar too, to make his skirmishers, and he's also done exactly like Gargoyles has done there with the commander with a couple of infantrymen on the base, and gone for kind of a diorama style.
I think I might have some Nick's saved here. I'm sure I saved Nick's photos.
If not, I'll get some better ones. If not, I'll get someone when I go home tonight, and we'll do those for next week.
I'm definitely not allowed to show that photo, so.
Nick Gams, hello, thank you for joining us. So obviously the topics today, we're looking at kind of, as a general overview, the idea of raiding forces, and tying into that, we've also got things like weird units that you don't see very often in bolt action. And as well, we're going to be taking some look at some new releases in a little bit. And we're doing kind of a bit of hobby corner and showcasing some cool community projects and, people in the chat, that's Gargoyles. So if you've got stuff, this goes for everyone. If you folks have got models that you want to show off, then drop them into info@warlordgames.com. Just mark it in the subject photos for the Twitch. And obviously we'll take a look. We'll add them to the file. And we'll get them on at some point.
Yeah, we got quite a lot. So I've just found Nick's. Just bear with me. Uno momento. Just because I'm loading them in.
But yeah, it's really nice. Really nice to see everyone's been cracking on with just doing different stuff with the American Civil War. Literally the one sprue that's available. The amount of stuff people have managed to do with it. It's really cool.
Yeah, there you go. So again, this is semi-painted ones, not finished, obviously, but they're coming along. You can kind of see where you've got some of the commanders being moved around, where he's made his standard bearers and stuff like that. A couple breakages here and there just to make different things. And again, just simple little things to make stuff look way more exciting, I think. That's going to be a really interesting unit when it's finished.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Is that a standard pole I see on one of the mounted commanders?
I believe it's behind him on a attendant infantryman, but yes, it is a converted standard pole.
That's really cool. I really like, one of the things I really like with black powder in 28mm, the massed regiments look really cool. But one of the things that really gets me kind of going is when you see someone that's done a brigadier, and they've got them on a big, like a 40mm circle base, and they've done a diorama with them, because really those guys are basically tokens. They don't, get involved in the same way that the regiments do, and people just have fun with them, and they always add so much character to the table.
Well, I think as well, you always end up with too many commander models, in my opinion. So you can kind of just make little dioramas to represent a command group rather than have 1,000,001 of the same command groups.
Yeah,
because I'm not against. Some people hate this. I don't really mind it, having no officers in your units. So instead of having a base on everyone, just kind of for gameplay abstraction, we're not focusing on that. But the division commanders can be a little bit more busy on a bit of a bigger base. We got a cavalry guy and infantry unit, and I don't like too many splits. And yes, Haggard, I just see in chat there, referring to the Marlborough mini, where he's got his attendant leaning up to him and he's giving orders. Fantastic stuff like that. And I also like Wellington and Picton, just more characterful commanders doing stuff, or in Wellington and Picton's case, not doing stuff. In fact, sleeping under a newspaper.
Do you know who would be a fantastic one, I think, for us to do to showcase for things
Russell
like really...
Crowe.
Yes, we should definitely get Russell Crowe on the Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd do it. There's not many movies going on right now. He's got time. And, you know, we're moving up in the world.
He can phone it in.
I think it was Haggard or it was Amish Stig said we're moving up in the world. We've got people delivering drinks. You know, yeah. I think we're at the level we can get Russell Crowe on. I don't think he could afford to say no.
Mm-hmm.
But no, our very own Steve Morgan, our head of trade, has a beautiful series of pike and shot armies.
Yeah.
And his commanders are always top notch.
Okay. I've never actually looked at them close. I know he had them on the shelf in our old office before we got evicted for foul odor and foul language. I don't know which was worse, but we definitely got kicked out, and it was definitely personal.
Oh, sure. When I first started in that office, because you came in after we rearranged it the first time.
Yeah.
When I was in there to start with, I was basically at eye level with his cabinet full of pike and shot stuff, or one of the cabinets full of pike and shot stuff. And that was like the first thing I saw when I came for my interview, actually, at Warlord. Was, you know, I kind of poked my head into the store and said, "Hey, I'm here for an interview. Never been here before. Where do I go?" Went and did my interview, came back the next day, and they sat me down in the office. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a proper war games company. You know, there's these cabinets of models just everywhere.
Yeah, we're starting to catch up now. I've got my Africa Corps moving in to one of the front displays next time we go in.
Yeah, I think I've got a space saved for my Germans in the store cabinets because I don't think I'm quite front of house material. I wouldn't want to drag your stuff. Wouldn't want to drag your stuff down. But they'll do fine for store.
I need to get a whole army in the store when it's ready. But the store is currently being used for storage.
Yeah. But going back to the theme of the raid, you mentioned the Dieppe raid.
I did.
And that's one where, you know, you kind of look at a lot of raids and a lot of scenarios, especially in books and movies, and sometimes in games. You know, you've got the smallish elite raiding force going up against masses and masses of defenders, and you know it seems hopeless, and then you know the hero saves the day, and the good guys win. At Dieppe, that wasn't the case at all.
No, it was a little bit of a problem for all involved.
The commandos, unfortunately, you know, got absolutely splattered. You know, there was well over 1,000 dead from the commandos against not very many Germans killed, and obviously all their objectives were failed.
Yeah.
And it's like 50% of the initial landing force were either killed, wounded, or taken prisoner.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing there is it was, you know, poor tactics and not amazing organization.
No.
It was one of the first big landing operations. But I think that would be a fantastic one to replay on the tabletop for a couple of reasons. Because not only have you got, you know, the German defenders against the commandos, the inter-allied commandos attacking, you've also got the Luftwaffe against, you know, the RAF to an extent, and the Luftwaffe particularly against the Royal Navy. And I think that would make a great game of Blood Red Skies Airstrike.
Oh yeah.
I think, and that's one of a lot of the raids have this common theme running in, which is, you know, somehow you've got to get in and get out again.
Yeah, you got to do your game of Blood Red Skies to assert aerial dominance, your game of Cruel Seas if required to get in. Not always applicable. Yeah. A lot of the time they were surprise raids, so maybe on the way out, on your evacuation. And I think I'm a big fan of replaying history, but obviously because we use these funny little things called dice in our games, a lot of the time the dice don't agree with what happened in history. In fact, more often than not, they completely disagree. So you can have these interesting options where one game will have a knock-on effect to the other. So if you win the game of Blood Red Skies, you might be able to get a free use of an airstrike or something like that in the next game, which obviously can be huge in the tabletop game, or you could have more specific examples. Obviously, I'm going really off the cuff here, so it's not the most thought out ideas, but it's ways that you can get collaborations. You would then play a bolt action Dieppe game, and then possibly something that would be really fun if you need to get survivors off. Cool, you're going to need to use your MTBs. Your objective is you need to get this many boats, depending on how many dice you had alive at the end of the last game. And do something like that. There's definitely ways to integrate them, which really brings them to life, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's another thing that you get with these raids, and we touched on it briefly, is units that you don't often see very much of. You know, it's whether that's the defenders being, you know, actually especially rubbish units, you know, your third and fourth line guys, or your command, or you know, your raiders being especially big and airy types. That normally, you know, in normal games, there may be too many points for what they do, or you know, they just don't fit into a normal list properly. You get to see those going at it. I think probably the most iconic ones for me are the guys that, you know, are knocking lumps out of your Africa Cormacs, the long range desert group, the SAS.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because those guys are the absolute epitome of, you know, a raiding force for me.
Oh yeah.
In terms of their they were so self-sufficient, and they were covering just such massive distances, and the operations were incredibly specific.
Yeah.
You know, it would, you know, even if the wider objective was cause mayhem, you know, it would be, we're going to go in and blow up that generator in that camp so they don't have power. You know, it's not about blowing up the whole camp, it's about one building kind of thing. And again, mention that lends itself really well to like that mission 6, demolition.
Yeah, there's a couple of good scenarios that utilize them in Western Desert as well, because like I think they're cool. I read a book about them and stuff like that. LRDG are just the coolest, and obviously with the raid on Tobruk, you've got some really crazy LRDG stuff where they snuck in a bunch of commandos with the SOE into Tobruk with the idea of springing some British regulars out. I say British, they might have been Commonwealth, to be honest. So don't quote me on that. I don't know the specifics off the top of my head. The idea was we're going to spring them, rearm them, and everyone's going to leave. And it was a bit of a disaster because they couldn't get the motorboats reinforcements in for a variety of reasons. So they kind of just had to go for the longest night of their lives on the cusp. But yeah, like just crazy stuff like that wasn't their singular defining moment. That is the fact that a lot of these just had a bunch of that happening, which is the interesting part, because not many forces can say they did something that audacious and dangerous, and enough of them live to tell the tale to try again.
Yeah, that's the mad thing. You know, I think that's really the mark of a proper elite special forces unit for me. Even to the modern day, is when it goes really wrong, did you manage to get out okay?
Yeah, or did enough of you?
Yeah, like when it went wrong, how much did you mitigate it going wrong? And again, that's again where you talk about linking a series of games together. You know, that could be super cool. You know, you have the special, you know, the raid failed. Now the guys have got to cut their way out, or they've got to race off the board while being pursued by massively superior force. You know, they've got maybe they're holding up and waiting for reinforcements, and they've got to make a last stand. There's so much you can do with it that almost lends itself to a campaign.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think really adds flavor to games when you're not just playing for, well, I beat you in this game. It's, you know, it almost, you know, it feels like it means more.
Yeah, it's not a throwaway one-time event.
Yeah, it's not an exhibition game, it's a series.
Which, I mean, I don't think I've played enough of. Like, I've played a few back-to-back games, but often they're hard to arrange. But if you've got the facilities and you've got the club, they really do push it over the edge. They're often the best things you've got on display, really. And again, it's an excuse to use the non-competitive stuff. It is, the scenario says we use Kriegsmarine, so today we use Kriegsmarine. How many Kriegsmarine models can we scrounge?
Yeah. So I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, but this is one that
Okay.
can kind of rumble on in the back of your mind for the rest of the video. What unit that you don't see very much of, would you most like to see? Just any unit, whether it's not used because it's not competitive, or it's not used because it's weird, or people just don't like it. What's the one unit that you wish you could see more of in bolt action?
It's I've got a couple ideas, so I'm gonna think about it for a moment. But honestly, I think the question's a little bit flawed, because when you say, "What do you want to see more of?" Really, I don't care what people run. I like to see variation, but I think we get enough of that anyway, just between different people's play styles, preferences, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's nothing I really want to see more of. I think it's more stuff that I'd like to challenge myself to use more often, or projects that I'd like to see come to fruition. Because, like, I loved my Soviet Naval Brigade, but really, do I need to see more of those? No, on a core level, there another army that's mostly regular or possibly veteran with tough fighters, and then they got a couple other toys. Really, if I want to see more of that, I should just take my Naval Brigade more often, and I already take them pretty often, to be honest. So I don't know. And the Ampoulemet. I've always got to make more room for the Ampoulemet because that thing's just dumb.
The Ampoulemet. I remember. I believe there was. I got a Facebook message off you at some ungodly time in the night ages ago, saying, "Hang on a minute, I think Ampoulemets are really good."
Yes, they are cheaper than a light mortar and have shortened range, of course, but I think they can move and fire because they're a team weapon, which is dumb. So they're basically a mobile light mortar for like no points at all. So actually, I think there's something to the Ampoulemet. I've just never really taken them.
Well, it's because it's quite funny. The backstory vaguely behind it is I bought Max an Ampoulemet team for his birthday a couple of years ago, just on the grounds that I was like, well, they're rubbish. I've never seen anyone use one. I'm like, well, it's a birthday present. You've got to paint it. You've got to use it. Otherwise, I'll be offended. And then it turns out, and then he manages to find a way to make it good because it's Max. He's good at games.
You did that the year before where you got me the dog mines, and they're actually one of the Soviets' best units. So.
Well, that was because, in fairness, like the year before, I barely knew how to play bolt action. Yes, here come the obligatory jokes that I still barely know how to play bolt action. But, that year was just, I swung and missed there. Like, here, have a powerful unit.
Also, I'm going to ask you the same question back. So what's something that you want to see more? And on top of that, what's something you'd like to see less? Because I'll field that question as well, but answer one of those. And Haggard, yes, I don't think it was a politician's answer. Honestly, there's nothing that I think I don't see at all, like, there's armies I don't see very much of. Like, I've only played Belgians once. I've never played Poles. So there's things like that I'd like to see. There's armies I'd like to see, but units, nothing really juts out at me. The armies, Polish and Belgians.
I think so. Units I would very much like to see more. There are a couple. They're actually both British. One of them, well, two of them are British, one of them German. One of them is the Royal Naval Shore Party, the Royal Naval section. And that is purely because I think the models are absolutely stonking. You've got that great big barrel-chested, bandy-legged bloke with his Lewis gun, and they're in their square rig, and they just look cool. And in a British army, which can be quite drab and uniform, they're a really lovely splash of colour. So they're very cool. I really like them a lot. Interestingly, they fit really nicely into a raid scenario as well as the crews of the landing boats.
Oh yeah.
The other one I'd love to see more of is the home guard stuff. So not home guard necessarily in and of themselves, but things like your it's all gone straight out of my head now. Your Blacker Bomber. No, not so much the weird stuff, but like the weapons that were actually built for the home guard.
The Northover projector, the Blacker Bomber, Smith guns.
That was the word I was
Hamilton disappearing pillboxes.
Exactly. All the weird and wonderful stuff that, quite frankly, is a bit just useless. Like, sure, whatever.
Don't we have rules for the, like, keg full of explosives that was designed to hop over the hedge.
I
I'm pretty sure
believe
there's rules for that hidden away somewhere in Sea Line as
Uh,
well.
I believe we do. That was really horrible. Actually, there was the petroleum weapon or petroleum warfare department. Their job was, let's use all this surplus oil we've got to make a series of terrifying giant flamethrowers on the beaches and also in hedgerows that just basically chucks a septic tank full of oil over a hedgerow and lands on top of a tank and catches fire, which is utterly horrifying. The other unit I'd like to see more of is German cavalry, not Waffen SS cavalry. Here cavalry. The reason we don't see those is because they've basically got no rules. But
funny that.
Gaz, I'm prodding you. But German cavalry in general,
Yeah.
I think the sculpts are really cool. They were used surprisingly, late into the war as horse cavalry in some theatres.
I'm assuming dragoonery kind of thing.
Yeah, it was very much you. They think of them like motorcycle scouts in that kind of dragoonery.
Yeah, horses with sidecars.
Yes. Oh, there's a conversion. Would it be a very tall sidecar or a Shetland pony with a normal sidecar? Though?
Definitely
a you decide.
Shetland pony with a machine gun hat.
I've ridden a few ponies that were like that. But
Came with a free machine gun. Wow.
Yeah, right. It was great. That's why I loved Pony Club when I was a kid. But no. So that's kind of my three. And in terms of units that I think I'd like to see less of, Maori Gurkha Paras, please.
Yeah.
Actually, genuinely, I would like to see kind of fewer units that just don't make sense in the force that they're in.
Okay.
I'd like to see more cohesive forces as a nice way to round it out, as opposed to super gamey forces, because bolt action you can make a very competitive army that's still completely themed. And it's when you get stuff that's oh well, this is just using rule on rule, and it's like, yeah, but your models are just kind of generic Brits. You could have used actual Gurkhas, they'd have looked sick, or you could have painted them up as Maori battalion, that would have looked awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'd like to see more of there, and more of and less of. Armistice Shetland with a sidecar, conflict 19 confirmed.
I can do some conflict 19. Make use of some of the weird paper tanks they came up with after World War One. Like the electrified ball tank and stuff like that.
Yes, I'm aware that exists. But that's literally, as I understand it, it was basically covered in a cage that was electrified.
It was it basically only existed as a advertising piece, as far as I'm aware.
Right.
It was designed to go in a electrics and enthusiasts magazine kind of thing, or possibly a trade mag. So it was basically a electrics company going, hey, we might have the weapon of the future. Obviously they didn't. I think they knew it, but it makes a very good poster, so they went with it.
Yes. I mean, or even it's one of those things where, as much as weird units includes the never built stuff, I think there's plenty of really weird units in the stuff that was actually built. That means if you don't want to, you don't have to go into the realms of speculation.
Yeah.
You can absolutely come out with, I don't know, spitballing here. For example, a home guard platoon armed with pikes.
Yeah.
That was a thing. Yes, they only that was only a very, very few issued. I know Churchill tried to have a bunch made, or possibly did have a bunch made. They didn't receive very much issue. It's one I've kind of always thought I might do if we ever get this Sea Lion campaign that we had planned about 3 million years ago off the ground. I might do some historians at a museum and do them as Perry's 15th century men-at-arms.
That'd be cool.
They're just historians that have gone into the museum, grabbed some harness and grabbed a poleaxe. and kind of give Jerry the surprise of his life when they come round the corner. But yeah, I think that's something that almost every book has as well. I think in in terms of our campaign books, you know.
Just before we move on, you were talking about the pikes. I'm pretty sure a pike's got about the same effective outer range as a Sten gun. So
Yeah, also less likely to go off if you drop
yeah.
it. I
just
mean,
want to do a quick. We got a couple images to get through today, so I'm just going to post a name in the chat. I've had this one saved for ages. I just haven't had a chance to post it. So I just post the Instagram link in the chat. I just wanted to show off that because that is a gorgeous example of a game I don't think we see enough of in.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I don't think we see enough of the Black Sea stuff in the chat. That's just sent in from a customer. Who I think he had like a postage query or something like that, something super minor, and just kind of, hey, do you want to see my boats? I'm, yeah, sure thing, and sent me that, and I was like, wow. When are you starting in studio?
Yeah, I mean that's what I really like there.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is the workmanship absolutely stunning, if you look as well, I think those are our like our faded dirty sails, aren't they, on there?
I'm not certain, but probably.
And those are the acetate rat lines that you get. That's it's rigged.
Yep.
And that just shows what you can achieve, the effect you can achieve with the Black Sea stuff, basically out of the box. And then he's just done such a stunning paint job on there as well, that it really, that for me is the kind of thing that you look at that and go, wow, that's genuinely aspirational.
Yeah, that's good enough to, that's a display piece as well as a gaming piece. Like if you saw that as a ship in a bottle, you'd be like, yep, that's good enough to justify that kind of thing. It just looks awesome.
Yeah, that's beautifully done. And honestly, that's kind of something that I kind of thought would be nice to do at some point, maybe in a future stream, is, do a shout out to just some of the communities out there for our games.
Yeah.
Because you got the Bolt Action page, the Blood Red Skies page, the Victory at Sea page, all of the, the community pages, just the amount of stuff those folks are churning out of such high quality.
Oh, yeah.
Really, building each other up and encouraging each other and learning and sharing techniques. And that's, a lot of you folks in the chat. So, cracking work and keep it up. That is what the hobby's all about at the end of the day.
And obviously, if there's anything anyone ever wants to show, please share it in. I don't know if we've got a theme for next week. So we might post up, please share your stuff in a Facebook group. Because I don't know what we'd do, but we could definitely do something.
Yeah, we can. We could do just a general. Hey, here today we're showcasing the people of X game. I think that'd be very cool. Oh no, the Germans are landing on the beach next to our Wars of the Roses reenactment. Yeah, it's a well-known beach at Tewkesbury. They've sailed up the Stour, I think it is.
I mean, we've been to that reenactment where it's, oh hey, Germans.
Oh, yeah, it's just a multi-bash at that point. The scenario, you could call the scenario Pike and Schutzen.
You could not.
You could come. Sorry, Amish. You are now going to be blocked and banned and reported to various authorities for that one. That's atrocious. But yes. So I answered both parts. You answered the first part of the question. What unit would you like to see, or whatever, would you like to see less of?
Less of. How do I say this without basically calling myself out partially?
It's a safe space. We allow self-call-outs.
Well, to be fair, I've got 3 armies and I only do this with 1, so I'm allowed to say it. Regular infantry. Far too much middle-of-the-road stuff. We got quite well represented veteran forces. A lot of people run veterans because I think that's where a lot of the super iconic stuff lives. But not enough people run INX, I don't think. So I'm going to say more INX, actually. I'm going to go back on my original answer of play what you want. I'd actually quite like to see more INX armies. I think there's a lot of flavour to be had in those. And outside of the French and the early war Soviets, you don't see too many of them. But there's a lot of armies in the world where you could justify them being in X. Like my American GIs are primarily done for their first issues in Tunisia, so they're all run as inexperienced and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of gameplay to be had out of it as well. It's far less reliable, but you're always outnumbering your opponent, and that really interacts with a objective-heavy game, where suddenly you just I can throw bodies at these objectives all day, and you can only carry one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there was it's something that is getting kind of more and more with every book that's come out, but this one has got two really good lists if you want to take not not the bog standard blobs of regular infantry. You know, you've got your 12th SS and you've got your Luftwaffe Field Division, which are both a great alternative. And as you know, a German player, I'm really happy that we've got a new alternative to just here's my veteran heavy SS army, or here's my regular heavy here army, or here's my 5,000 Ostrup, why will nobody talk to me at the club? So I think we're seeing more and more of that in the books, which is really cool. And as the books go on, as our awesome authors do more and more of the war, we start to see more and more of the weird units come out.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some weird units in the last few books.
Oh yeah,
a lot of units that do too much of what they shouldn't be able to do, like extra Piats, extra snipers, extra flamethrowers. A lot of scary stuff going on these days, especially if you're in a everything goes tournament.
Oh god, yeah. I think the first tournament after lockdown, with everyone having had time to sit down and really thrash their lists out and paint all the models they need, and the new books that have come out, you might see some absolute filth going on the tabletop there.
I just want to respond to a couple things in the chat. Haggard just saying there, if you like Inex, you should start a Chinese army. Maybe when I've got the time, but I've got enough of a backlog to be getting on with. This year is about catching up and not starting a new force. And anyway, I think the next thing I want to do for Bolt Action is, again, I know I just said I didn't want to do it, but they're super iconic and I've not done anything for Northern Europe yet. I just want Generico British or Canadian in Northern Europe. I think that's very cool. And Amish, to do inexperienced justice, you really need multiple platoons, the limit of 5 squads, no matter what quality they are, takes the bite out of the wall of meat. I actually disagree. What I did with my Americans is they were again, within the context of Bolt Action, there's a little bit of wiggle in the accuracy side of things. I basically ran a platoon with every single topping added. So it was chaplain, medic, air observer, 3 machine guns, 2 mortar, so 1 mortar, but I've got options to put into a tank, an artillery piece, a tow. So, I was still sitting pretty on about 18 dice on top of 60 men. So yeah, it's not just a wall of meat, but I didn't want to do a wall of meat because, in my opinion, the GIs, they were anything if not under-equipped, They were inexperienced because they hadn't seen much field time. So I wanted to show them with all the bells and whistles, all the toys, just not too much experience with them. So I think it would be entirely justified to, if you're doing it as a campaign, by the time you get past... why can't I remember it? I want to say Hellfire Pass, but I'm 99% sure that's not correct. The one where they had the really bad day.
Kasserine Pass.
Kasserine Pass, that's it. Any point after that, I'd say it's completely justified to run them as regulars, possibly even some veterans in the list. So it's a fun... I've not had a chance to properly run that list yet, just because of various lockdowns. But when I actually play it, it's going to be about 18 dice and lots of MMGs. Oh, and an MMG Jeep as well. So there's going to be 4 MMGs just as individual dice. Then a Sherman that can't shoot straight because it's inexperienced. And then a bunch of infantry and a 105 howitzer that also cannot shoot straight. Nice. Oh boy, when something hits, the opponent's going to know about it.
I mean, so you said, the one you want to do...
I need to go grab a drink if you want to keep asking the question.
Yeah, of course. Nick Gams has said, will you gents do a live battle report stream in the future? Absolutely. We've done one. We've done a couple, actually, in the past. We really, really want to do more of them. We want to make it, something that we do pretty regularly, at least once a month kind of jobby, if not more. The issue with
the goal, and
yes,
we did briefly hit that goal. In fact, we double dipped in December, I believe. Over November and December, we actually went 3 weeks on the trot with games every week, which is kind of where we want to be. The idea is we want. Sorry, Phil, Marcus, Phil.
It's all right. He's not choking. He's deadly serious. No, it's where we kind of want to get to, where we know that folks really like seeing the games. Initially when we first thought, should we do some games? We didn't know whether it was going to work. We didn't know, could we get cameras right? Would people like it? Because it's a bit different, and it can be quite slow sometimes if you get it wrong.
Yeah.
But the response was really good. People seem to really enjoy it. To be honest, we really enjoyed it because with the lockdown, we've barely been able to play. And it was an excuse for us to get some games in.
Yeah, and it's a chance to show off new games as well. Like, I know some people around the offices have actually volunteered that when we're allowed to get games in and when it's all painted, they've actually volunteered their collections for the new American Civil War stuff. So even...
Yeah.
Because I think in the time frame that we want to get it going, we're going to struggle to get a whole army painted at that scale. But if we've got a couple people's armies to borrow from, now we're actually getting somewhere. So we definitely want to get some games in as soon as possible. And yeah, we want to get back to them. I'd possibly talk about getting them done soon, but I don't know if we could get it cleared doing it before lockdown. I don't know how comfortable I'd be with doing it before lockdown. Obviously, we work together, but minimizing contact, there is... I don't know, possibly want to talk about maybe masks on the whole time, continuing with hand wash every turn, stuff like that. Possibly get away with it, but we'll have to talk with the powers that be and talk to the relevant health and safety people whether they think we could do it or not. Because I'd love to get back on the game board properly.
Oh, for sure. And Mike says, hello, Mike. Just got home. What have I missed?
Well, about an hour's worth of content.
You were saving some stuff, weren't you?
Yeah, so we've actually got some stuff from Mike, and I've also got a phoned-in question from Mike. That Mike, you might have seen this on the email thread we've got going, but I'm gonna post it again here. So there we go. That's the first ship. That is the HMS Clementis.
Nice. Clematis, I think.
That's really nice. So we've got a couple from Mike here. He's been busy lately.
Oh yeah.
He's been showing me these. Very nice to see those ones in. Mike, obviously, a long-time listener, which is nice to see. He also asked a question while he was showing me these. Would it be possible to get some or get on the? Is it not yours, Mike?
Have we got the wrong mic?
It was definitely a mic, possibly the wrong mic I'm thinking of.
Whoops.
Yeah, I see Mike in the username. I saw Mike in the email. I put 2 and 2 together.
We came up with 5. Oh well. In fairness, it's still bloody lovely.
But anyway,
one of those.
That Mike was asking, would it be possible to get some interviews on? The problem is with the interviews is it means more people have to stay behind and stuff like that. So some people don't want to do that, which is understandable. No, not everyone wants to stay until late doing streams. So possibly one thing that I kind of had bobbling around in my head today was the possibility of doing some mail-in questions kind of thing. We could do a prereq interview with the authors. So that's possibly something we could do in the future. So no guarantees at the moment because I've not even spoke to the authors. They might just not be interested or genuinely be too busy. But I think that'd be one thing we could possibly do in the future. So, potentially in a stream it will be, and we will be taking questions for the writer of, hypothetically, this game system, Cruel Seas, but it could be any game system. Have a couple of people asking questions, do a bit of prereq in the office, and play it back on the stream. So I think that's possibly a good way to kind of get around the late nights for the potential guests.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike says, so Mike has done a clematis, but not painted that way. So if it's your HMS clematis we've just shown, please let us know because it is really nice. and try and work out where all of these mics are coming from. We have so many mics apparently that we've lost track.
Yeah, so we've got the HMS Wrestler as well. Like I say, he sent in a few. They all looked really cool. But yeah, I just got mixed up on my mics.
That's why we do a mic check, and I'll see myself out on that one. But no, I think Mike Squad Rise Up.
Oh no! I believe that's HMS Waverley as well.
That's really striking with the blue. Actually, I really like that.
So lots of cool stuff going on there.
That's all for Cruel Seas as well. So they're big.
Oh yeah, and I'm just going to bring in as well, just because some people are asking about the game streams. It's a bit of an outdated setup, but it gives you a rough idea. This is the setup for when we have the games. I haven't got this one resized, so just bear with me. Just pulled this off the Facebook. There we go. So yeah, as you can see, just big old frame over the top of the board, and we just film from the top. We've got a camera from the side as well for close-ups and things like that. And there we go. So we will be doing game streams as soon as possible. A lot of effort goes into setting them up, but they are always worth it, especially when lots of people watch.
Yeah, I'm happy to report that was in the studio, which doesn't look like that anymore, and we've been kicked out of there because it's full of important studio things. But we do now have, our own room, which is where we normally record. And Max, being the tech wizard he is, and the film buff, has managed to get it all set up and working really well, all things considered. Mike, I do believe you did. So it looks like we've got parallel mics. And we'll work. What we'll do is we'll sit down afterwards at some point and disentangle our mics. But we'll get that worked out. Don't worry. And Mike, I'll see if I can get that picture of your landing craft with the very big guns, and I'll see if we can get that on the stream for next week.
Yeah,
because that will be. I'm
going to blame this on the fact that Marcus has had a week off. He's getting sloppy.
Yes. That's the problem. Max does all the technology, but Max can't actually remember a single human name. I have to kind of gently prompt him. But also,
I can remember one name.
Which one?
Mike.
Yeah, but which one, Max?
I don't know.
So I remember the names. Max makes everything work. So he is very much the senior partner here. But that's the reason I haven't been fired and exiled yet, is because I remember all the names for him. But no, always lovely as well to see people just kind of proud of their hobby. And that's one thing I really like to see, is when someone goes, hey, look at this thing I've done, because it means they're happy with it. And that's the main thing with hobby. You're happy with it.
Or you've learned things to be happy with the next one, as so often the case. Yeah,
I mean, I've actually been quite nice painting up just that one test for Salier, kind of going, all right, I kind of knew how I was going to approach painting British battle dress, but I didn't know exactly what colours I was going to use, what mix I was going to use, and I just sat down and went, all right, let's try it, and kind of went. Some bits worked really well, some bits didn't really work, and yeah, like you say, you learn for the next model. And I know that the next lot of Brits I do, I can go right. And now I know what I'm doing. I can get my teeth into them. And they do actually look really striking. Excuse me, they do look very striking with the tin hats and the big Kappa K feathers.
Yeah, well, when they're done as well. Obviously, if you want to get some good photos of them, if you can get your own done, do that. And if not, bring them in, and I'm sure you can talk me into giving you a hand with the photography. But yeah, I just want to show off one more thing. It's very community day today. That's fine. We haven't done one of these in ages, so we're kind of getting a bunch out. Last week, obviously, I solo streamed, and that was the finished result there. I think. I don't know if you guys have popped it up yet, but I'm super happy with those.
They pop really nicely. I love that kind of, I guess turquoise. Yeah, turquoise is the color I'm looking for, isn't it? On the tunics, that looks so nice.
That's what it says on the bottle, at least.
It's something. One thing that I really like, actually, And I know why I like it, because of Rome Total War, because I always thought the Julii were boring. But I really love seeing Romans and Rome adjacent stuff that isn't just in red.
Mhm.
I think it make everyone's so used to seeing them in kind of all forms of media in red.
Yeah.
But like you've done there and gone, probably far more historical. And it just it pops so nicely because your brain's not
don't think it's
expecting.
historical. not that level turquoise. That's way too rich. But it
True,
looks
true.
fun. That was the big thing I wanted to do with this project. I wanted to go. It's a nice small project. Well, relatively small. It's not a huge army. It's not Hail Caesar. Let's put it that way, because this is specifically for SPQR. So it's not going to have enormous units. I can kind of afford to put in a bit more detail. And so I thought I really like the color turquoise. Don't use it enough in my painting, so here's an excuse. I think it will look good with the green bases, and I've been looking for an excuse to do Auxilia for a while now. So that's all we're doing. Romans need not apply.
I like. Is your Roman warband going to have any Romans?
No.
Nice.
I actually picked up a new Roman today, to need another unit leader. I managed to get hold of Gluteus Maximus, the Optio from the front of Age of Caesar. Cool model, that one. So I'm going to convert him a little bit just because he looks at them. I don't actually want him not Optio stick. In fact, actually, chat. Wikipedia wouldn't help me out, and I couldn't be bothered to dig too deep. Would an Auxilia cohort or century equivalent have Optios? Because I couldn't find one definitive yes or no, because what few sites I was checking with, they were conflicting. I couldn't find anything concrete. So I'm either going to paint him up as an Optio in Auxilia kit, so just swap the shield around and call it a day, or possibly I'm going to have to do a spear swap as well. Nothing too bad. Before I cut up his Optio stick, let's figure out, should I cut up his Optio stick? Because he's a cool model.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those weird ones. You'd think with, how heavily documented the Roman army was not very long after the fact.
Roman army was.
This is true. You might know this one, and if not, someone in chat probably will. Auxilia like that.
Mm-hmm.
Are they still centrally equipped from the armor factories? Because I know they are in the Concomites legions of much, much later, but that's when Auxilia basically just are the entire Roman army. In the kind of the imperial and post-Marian reforms, are the Auxilia just bringing their own stuff from home, or are they being equipped to a standard by Rome?
I don't know at all. My guess would be possibly a bit from column A, a bit from column B, depending on what quality kit they arrive with. One resource that I found that was very useful was someone's done a breakdown, and I couldn't remember off the top of my head what year it is, but it's Central Imperial kind of era. Exactly how many of each unit type they had for the Auxilia, because they were quite strict about, are you heavy cavalry, scout cavalry, ranged cavalry, spear, bow, sling, or other. And it breaks it down into which the proportions of each. And a lot of them were being used for archers around that era, and a lot of them were being used for spear around that era. A bit of everything else sprinkled in.
That's really cool. I mean, I like the that very Roman, that very kind of delineated role. And the ancient world's great for weird units as well.
Oh yeah.
Just stuff that you look at it with a modern eye, and you go, "What? Why?"
Pike cavalry.
Pardon?
Pike cavalry. It sounds dumb until you think about it.
Like the Macedonian Kontos stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that one is in general, but it sounds dumb until you think about actually.
That one has really weirded me out. That one's always weirded me out. Simply, because I can ride. Okay, I haven't ridden in a lot of years, but I could get on a horse and make it go around and not fall off. I can't imagine doing that with just such a huge unwieldy thing in two hands, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems so unwieldy is the word. And then you kind of think, well, you're actually using it as, impact cavalry and things like that.
Still, you can only imagine it was hell to control on the final advance.
Well, especially this is pre-stirrup as well, which is absolutely the calf and thigh strength on those guys is terrifying.
Oh yeah. But so someone was saying, there we go. A couple of people saying they look nice. Thank you very much, guys. Haggard, Skippy Eye Clan rides up. Actually, Cornelius at the moment. I'm playing Rome 2. Gone with Cornelius Clan because I'm the only guy who does that, and just because I wanted to get the Auxilia in. I still think Auxilia are cool. I'm in that mindset, so I was like, cool. They get 50% upkeep on all Auxilia. Then yeah, them ones, please.
I was playing Medi 2 Teutonic last night. Sat there bumbling through as the Holy Roman Empire, and kind of went, I don't really want to fight anyone. I just want to establish, the Hanseatic League and make an absolute ton of money. And then it being vanilla, Medi 2 Teutonic, Poland, who I'd been allied with forever, just kind of randomly decided, yeah, no, we hate you now.
Yeah, I love it when that happens.
As the AIs want to do, and I'm like, you know what? That's enough for now. I'm gonna turn Total War off and chill out for a little bit because I was quite angry with Poland. But no, I mean, it's interesting how many periods and eras have really weird units kind of abounding, and then some of them almost seem not to. And I can't, if you look at like, for example, the early Middle Ages, I can't, or the high Middle Ages, I can't really think of too many properly out there units. I can't think of, there's nothing, for example, like flaming war pigs.
I mean, there's that one Byzantine unit, mostly naval.
Oh God, yeah. But then you get to kind of the early Renaissance, and you've got kind of dudes wheeling around, Ribaldequins or bombing around with early pistols on horseback, and it's just really out there. I suppose it probably moves with technology.
Yeah, I think for a long time the most advanced thing was a well-trained man with a big shield and a long spear and the strength and ability to use it, and kind of stayed like that for a long old time. And as metalwork got better, the armor kind of changed, and that was the first real thing. And then gunpowder really kind of blew it out the water the more available it became.
Yeah, true. And when the height of your technology is a reasonably complex crossbow, you're going to struggle to innovate a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, I think there's, again, room to tie it all back into the raids theme here.
Yeah.
You've mentioned SPQR, and obviously
I've mentioned it quite a lot lately. It's been on my mind.
SPQR is almost the perfect game for raiding in the ancient world. So obviously, Hail Caesar, you can do a raid, but that's almost like a coup de main, or a coup de force.
Yeah.
You're really talking about I'm raiding in a strategic sense with my army, as opposed to a bunch of hard as nails types sneaking behind enemy lines and doing one specific thing. And SPQR is set up so well for that. You can have the Germanic tribesmen raiding the Roman supply chain, or you can have the Greeks
cattle
raiding,
goat raiding. That's all I care about.
That's all. Max lives to steal goats. You heard it here first.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there is a scenario out of the book
which is stealing cattle.
Yep.
I remember when SPQR first came out, actually, our HQ store had a very brief flurry of doing very, very well selling cattle.
And, the farmyard sprues.
Farmyard animals, yeah.
E-I-E-I-O.
Yeah, for those that don't know, there is a deal on our website. It's called McDonald's Farm. It's a bundle. I think you get a barn and a bunch of farm animals. And our internal reference code for it is EIEI0, which is an example of the fine humour you can find at Warlord Games and why me and Max are streaming about toy soldiers instead of on stage doing stand-up.
Hey, I didn't write
it. This is true. I think you'd have come up with something much worse.
You do get a few goats in that one, some pigs. It might work. It's got the most dangerous unit in the game as well.
Well, the geese.
Yeah, 2 geese per sprue. Yeesh.
Oh God. Have you seen? It's an army that we have featured before. It is John from Metal Casting. His Conflict 47 LRDG.
Yes, those are great.
And his Conflict 47 Highlanders to go with them, where he's got a flock of geese that count as British war dogs for Conflict 47. And they are utterly
those.
Yeah, his battle geese. That army, honestly, I want to feature that again at some point. Simply because I think when we first did it, we mostly focused on a lot of the K-47 stuff.
Yeah.
But there's so much stuff in there, that all the conversions out of pike and shot, that were just beautiful. Haggard, an hour and 20 minutes in, still waiting for commerce raiding or border raiders.
That's what goats are about, right?
Yeah, all right, fine, commerce raiding. Yeah, no, I'm making light of it, of course. But you are absolutely right, Haggard, in that it carries across games into things very much Victory at Sea. Be great for it with the new merchant convoy.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah, you've got things like the German commerce raiders. Blucher counts, Admiral Hipper, Scharnhorst and Eisenhower, things like that the Germans predicated a lot of their naval strategy on, obviously, commerce raiding, and especially with the U-boat campaigns. And that led to some really interesting actions to replay on the tabletop as well. Again, where the odds might seem massively one-sided, but at the end of the day, go down and throw some dice and see what happens, and see if you can do better than it went historically. I think that's a really good opportunity to get some asymmetric warfare in for some other games.
Yeah.
So that's one, again, that I would like to see, is things like the Cormorant versus... is it Cormorant versus HMAS Sydney? There was a couple of... there was a couple of things like that where you had these, Q ships or armed merchant cruisers or ships masquerading as civilian ships, rolling up and beating absolute seven bells out of each other, out in the middle of nowhere. And it's almost an inconsequential battle, but again, very cool to refight. And if memory serves, the full Victory at Sea rulebook, which is coming out reasonably soon, that does have rules for things like your armed merchant raiders in there. And I think, if memory serves, I saw a table to create your own, which is very cool.
Oh, nice.
And so you can really go to town there and start carving up your merchant ships.
Just a quick update. I'm just posting it in the chat. We are uploading all our streams after the fact to YouTube from now on. So I've just posted that link in the chat, so you can check it out there to catch any you missed, or to catch up on any previous episodes. Yeah,
if for some reason you're having an especially bad day and the only thing that'll fix it is 6 hours of me and Max droning at you.
Yeah. And I would say as well, we're on the last 10 minutes, so if anyone has any super random, surprising questions, then
yes,
Amnesty on Questions is open.
Yeah, amnesty on questions. Things like, how's the hockey going, lads? Are you enjoying the new NHL season? To which the answer, I think, both of us right now is a resounding don't talk to us.
Yeah, not really.
No. Hey, at least, are you above 500?
I think we're on 500.
Yeah, we dropped 2 games to the Blackhawks back-to-back, and they're supposed to be worse than us this year. 1-1.
Ouch.
Yeah, we got smoked. It was like
that
4-2 and
6-1. Breaking his stick is my emotional state.
Yeah. Yes, Stumpy, just happy to have hockey again. I thought that, and then the Wings went into the back-to-back against Chicago this weekend, and now I'm good. They can take another COVID break now.
Yeah, it's hockey back when you're beating the Penguins is one thing. Hockey back when you're losing to the Bruins is another thing.
Yeah.
But no, I'm very happy to have it back, jokes aside. It's been nice to see.
It's been nice to have a reason to stay up until 4 a.m. now, as opposed to just kind of doing it. Sounds like we need to make Blood Bowl but hockey for Warlord.
It's been suggested. God. It has been suggested.
Yeah.
I want to do it. I can't sculpt,
Yeah.
so.
No. But you don't mind a season of Interdivision play. It's going to be heated and fun. Yeah, Matthew Kachuk going with the flying knee drop on Jack Campbell's head last night. That was pretty brutal. That's going to be a reply.
Have either of you watched Archer? Yeah, I think I've seen every episode up until season 7, but I've not seen it since they went noir, which I think was season 8. And then I think they went to space after. I've not seen that season either. Just kind of fell out with it. It wasn't as good and it wasn't as fresh, so I kind of stopped watching it. But it's a good show. The first 3 seasons, especially, definitely have something special going on.
I've watched including the noir episode, the Jungle Island episode, the space season.
God, I'm missing a lot. Wow.
Yeah, there's like 3 seasons. Yeah, binge watching it on Amazon for free. Yeah, I'm up to date on Archer, and you're right there. The back end of it kind of tailed off a little bit, but just a really solid. Yeah, the first 3 or 4 seasons. Max is right. Were really just. They were fun. They were different. Is the big thing.
Yeah.
The one thing that ruined Archer for me a little bit was the guy that played Archer's voice actor is H. John Benjamin. Now he plays Bob in Bob's Burgers.
He's everywhere at the moment. He had a really tough career to start with. He really turned it around using Archer as his jumping point. Nice guy by all counts.
The problem is he doesn't change his voice for Bob and Archer.
No, he doesn't.
So I can't unhear it. But at the moment, I've been watching a ton of Futurama. I love Futurama to death. I've just been basically rewatching the whole of Futurama again on Amazon.
I haven't been watching anything lately because I got a new gaming laptop, so it's been taking up all my time. Actually, I did watch Planet of the Apes this weekend. I watched Rise and Dawn, and they are fantastic movies.
We've got a couple of good questions in there as well from Haggard and Amish.
Mm-hmm.
So what's this about Black Sea ships in Armada? Any info? I'm afraid not from me. That is going to be a Mantic jobby. I think it is their rule set based on our rule set. I've not had a chance to sit down and read the rules for that yet, simply because I've been away from the office and very busy. So possibly. And Amish Stig, what war game do you not play that you really want to? That's a tough one.
That's really difficult because I'm pretty impulsive and I play a lot of games. So I'm struggling to think of something that I'm missing. Actually, no, I've got 2 answers. They're both from the same company, and it is time and effort to actually get around to building them and having people to play with. Tombstone and the Pirate one, both from Black Scorpion Miniatures. Gorgeous models.
Oh, yeah.
Cool concept. Pirates are fun, and it's a little bit fantasy as well in both of them. And I love my cowboys. I've got a load of Tombstone miniatures in my desk here as well. That I just got for collecting sake. So I'd definitely say Tombstone and the Pirate game. That name escapes me from Black Scorpion. Because I basically play everything else. I play every war game except AOS, and let's keep it that way.
No, I think for me, until this morning, it was Dreadball. But my housemate Nick also picked up a bunch of Dreadball stuff, so it looks like that's happening at some point.
Dreadball's rules are supposed to be good, but I'm not a huge fan of the models.
In terms of
controversial,
our games, yeah. In terms of our games, I really want to get into at some point Pike and Shot. I've played a few games.
Pike and Shot range is gorgeous.
I still maintain the Pike and Shot range is our best range overall. But I've played a few massive games of Pike and Shot at our CEO John's house. But that's very much you play a slimmed down version of the rules, and you're just rattling through with a few beers and a bacon sandwich and the guys, which is nice. But I really want to get into that at some point. Beemaster 980. Any news on Bolt Action? Got that. That's brand new. Plenty of stuff is coming for Bolt Action in the future, over the course of the year. Some stuff's just dropped. There's some stuff that's going to be coming in the, hopefully with COVID, not too distant future. Big things on the horizon for Bolt Action, so keep an eye out. We will do our level best if we can to do things like we did with the British and Canadian book, a little bit of early access, a little bit of a kind of reveals if we can. We've got some cool ideas planned for that.
Yeah, I actually know the release date for the next product. and when we're allowed to talk
Ooh.
about it.
Ooh.
So there will be an embargo released on when we can talk about it. That I'll PM
Yes.
you direct, Marcus. But it's
Oh,
not far
thank
off.
you.
I can guarantee you that.
Nice.
Primary thing is bolt action, so there's something big.
Yeah.
And someone was saying about Tombstone. It was me. So I'll lean that way. And there we go. So that's Billy the Kid. I'm not going to show it fantastically, but there we go. Cool models, them. I like them. They're good enough for me.
Is that a recent paint job as well?
No, I painted this when I was like 15.
Honestly, I've not, because I've been around your house enough times. I've just never seen those at yours.
They only came back up with me when I went back home during that brief time where it looked like COVID was over August. And I came back. They came back up with me. So I was going to use them for the roleplay game we were in. They were going to be my unit before my unit got killed.
Yeah. Gargoyles. Could we buy extra bases for Epic American Civil War? At the moment on the website, no. However, that is something that maybe will become possible in the future. I don't know. That's just me spitballing. And you can always get in touch with us. I'd say let the main game come out. Let the big releases drop. And if you need extra bases, get in touch with us. Can't promise anything, but we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes for anything that we maybe don't sell a unit that's composed exactly how you like, or you want to swap some things inside a deal. Get in touch with us, and we will always try our best to find you a solution that's tailored to your needs.
But don't at the moment, because we literally can't because of lockdown.
Yes.
That would expose way too many people to risk or possibly have to break potential social distancing stuff. So we literally can't do it at the moment. So get in touch after lockdown. Always happy to help, but we physically cannot. And as cool as conversion projects are, we're not putting staff health at risk for that one. But when we're able to, we definitely will. And Haggard, just because they ruined the game at the end doesn't mean the thing they replaced it with was any good. The End Times was a disaster, and I'll die on that hill.
B-Master 980 got you really excited now. Good. That's why they pay us the medium-sized bucks. We are the world's most reasonably priced hype men.
Do we have a schedule on when lockdown's scheduled to end? Nope. Follow the BBC and the government for that one. It's not up to us, so hopefully soon. I imagine the numbers should be going down, but I don't know.
Yeah, lots of good news, obviously, with the vaccine. That seems to be working quite well. Interestingly enough, I noticed this because I was in today for the first time in about 2 weeks in the office. We are right next door to a vaccine centre.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, it's the university campus. They've where we had the last grand tournament.
Yeah.
I think they've turned that into a vaccine centre. There's a big sign on the road outside.
Oh, cool.
So hopefully, when it comes to our turn to get jabbed, we can just do it on our lunch break.
No, because after you get vaccinated, I'm pretty sure you got to isolate for 2 weeks.
Do you? Wow. I mean, in fairness, we're both, reasonably young and reasonably healthy. So I think there's lots of people that need to go and get theirs before us. But it's looking positive. Obviously, it is very difficult here in the UK. Hopefully, everyone else is staying safe and trying to use the time a little bit more productively than me.
Anyway, I think that'll do for us. That's an hour and a half. So I hope everyone enjoyed. Sorry for the technical issues at the start. This is just what we get when we're remote streaming, unfortunately. But I think we saved it. And have a good week. Please share with me any hobby projects through the inbox or direct message me on my blog or however you want to get in touch. We even take postcards. Be lovely to hear from you all and have a great week.
Yep. See you later, folks.